Yeah, well, we'll get to that video in just a moment. The mall shut down back in October, and since then it's really looked like it does tonight.
Somewhere in Orange County, California, surrounded by strip malls, fast food chains, and a Starbucks on every corner, there is a building. A 1.2 million square foot building sitting at the corner of Golden West Street and Bolsa Avenue in the city of Westminster, just minutes off Interstate 405 and a short drive from Disneyland. From the outside, it almost looks normal. The parking lot is enormous. The structure is still standing, the signs are still up. But step inside, and everything changes. Graffiti covers every single wall, floor to ceiling, from one end to the other. Shop windows are smashed inward. Entire corridors are buried under debris. Fire extinguishers were discharged across multiple sections, leaving white chemical powder coating the floor like a layer of toxic snow and filling the air with a thick, eerie haze. Furniture has been dragged from stores and piled in chaotic heaps across the walkways. Squatters moved in, stripped copper wire from the walls, and claimed the empty storefronts as their own. And here is the detail that should genuinely disturb you. None of this took years. None of it took months. It took 3 weeks. 3 weeks after Westminster Mall permanently closed its doors on October 29th, 2025. One of the most rapid and complete destructions of an American public building in recent memory had already taken place. Police logged over 400 calls to the property. 30 arrests were made in a single 72-hour window. Eyewitnesses reported seeing up to 60 people inside the building at once, with zero security present. This is not just the story of a dead mall. It is the story of 51 years of American community life, so to slow institutional failure and a collapse so sudden and so public that it made national headlines. This is the full, documented history of Westminster Mall. Welcome to the History Chronicle. If this is your first time here, you are in the right place. We dig into forgotten places, overlooked histories, and the moments that defined American culture. Subscribe right now and hit that notification bell, because this story goes deeper than you think. Let us start from the very beginning. Before there was a mall, before there was a parking lot, before there was a single square foot of retail space, this land had a chapter almost nobody talks about. After World War II ended, a Japanese-American couple came back to Orange County and began farming this flat, quiet stretch of Westminster. What they built was not a vegetable farm or a citrus grove. They built what became the largest goldfish farm in the entire world. Right here, on the same ground where teenagers would later buy their first Jordans, and families would take photos with the mall Santa. The world's largest goldfish farm. On the land that would eventually become one of Orange County's most ambitious retail developments. By the 1960s, that era ended. The suburban expansion machine was consuming Southern California at a relentless pace. Master-planned neighborhoods spread outward from Los Angeles in every direction. Interstate 405 was being cut directly through the region. Thousands of families were arriving every month, and this remaining open land near the new freeway interchange had stopped being agricultural. It had become opportunity. In 1972, the Hormart Development Company announced its plans. Hormart was the second-largest mall developer in the entire United States and a direct subsidiary of Sears, the most dominant retail brand in America at the time. Their vision: build the largest enclosed shopping mall in all of Orange County. The site covered 93 acres. The building would measure 1.2 million square feet across 2 levels. 3 anchor stores were confirmed from day one: May Company, Sears, and Buffum's. The Sears store alone designed by the legendary architecture firm Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill, occupied 200,000 square feet across 2 floors. The parking lot was engineered to hold 6,600 vehicles. A cinema fourplex was included on the out parcel from the very beginning. Construction moved fast. On August 7, 1974, Westminster Mall opened at approximately 9:30 in the morning. A live band played outside the entrance. Civic leaders gave speeches. Shoppers lined up before the doors unlocked. By the time the first afternoon crowd had settled in, every one of those 6,600 parking spaces was reportedly full. 1 year later, in 1975, J.W. Robinson's joined as the 4th anchor store, completing the original retail vision. Step inside in those early years, and you were not just shopping. You were somewhere. The center court rose through 3 full levels beneath a dramatic pyramid-shaped skylight that flooded the space with warm California sunlight. Elevated walkways connected the levels. Grand staircases with stretches of deep red carpet swept up from the main concourse. Lush tropical plants. Custom-designed sculptures. Sunken lounge areas where shoppers could rest and watch the crowd move past. For a lot of Orange County families, this was the most striking interior space they had ever stood inside. Not a store. Not a building. An experience. Westminster moved through the late 1970s and early 1980s with solid commercial momentum. By 1982, Sears sold the property to an outside management group, and that new ownership began modernizing. In 1987, a $10 million renovation reshaped the entire complex. New tiled floors, a glass-enclosed elevator, a full new food court, and additional retail space carved from the open center court. The result was immediate. Westminster climbed to become the 2nd highest grossing retail center in Orange County. The 1990s brought standard anchor churn. Department store mergers displaced some original tenants. But JCPenney moved in and kept the lineup solid. Macy's then constructed a brand new anchor space in 2002, a significant capital investment that still signaled confidence in the property. Simon Property Group, the largest mall operator in America, acquired Westminster and launched yet another $10 million renovation in 2008. A children's play area, a carousel, updated decor throughout. The goal was to pull upscale tenants and modernize the building for a new generation. The work finished on schedule. And then, almost immediately, the global financial crisis arrived and wiped out the consumer spending the renovation had been designed for. The 2008 collapse exposed a problem that no renovation could fix. By 2012, Westminster's retail sales ranking had fallen from 2nd to 8th place in Orange County. At 85% occupancy, it still ranked last among its regional peers. The reason was structural. 15 minutes away sat South Coast Plaza, one of the highest-grossing shopping malls on the planet. Hundreds of luxury and mainstream retailers, a more upscale environment, a far stronger tenant roster. There was no compelling reason for any consumer to choose Westminster when South Coast offered more of everything. There was also the climate reality nobody wanted to say out loud. This is Southern California. The weather is warm almost every single day of the year. The entire premise of the enclosed, climate-controlled shopping mall, a concept built on Midwestern winters and Southern summers, barely registers as a necessity here. Outdoor lifestyle centers and open-air plazas filled every corner of Westminster's surrounding area. For lease signs started multiplying in the corridors. The phrase "dead mall" began appearing in conversations about this building. The vicious cycle locked in. Less foot traffic meant fewer tenants, and fewer tenants meant even less foot traffic. In 2018, Sears permanently closed its 200,000 square foot anchor location. The company that had literally built this mall had now abandoned it. Washington Prime Group, a spin-off created by Simon Property Group to manage its struggling properties, took over Westminster's operation. Washington Prime was itself in financial trouble. When COVID-19 arrived in 2020 and forced American malls into prolonged closures, Washington Prime filed for bankruptcy. Westminster absorbed the full weight of that collapse. Layoffs gutted the remaining retail staff. So stores closed in rapid succession through 2020 and 2021. City planners and developers began openly discussing redevelopment, effectively acknowledging that retail here was finished. Then 2025 delivered the final blows in quick succession. Macy's closed in March. JCPenney announced its permanent closure. Washington Prime Group formalized the end. All remaining tenant leases would expire October 29, 2025. Westminster Mall would close permanently. 51 years after the band played outside on opening morning, the doors closed for the last time. JCPenney held on through mid-November in a quiet, slow liquidation. Target, which had years earlier purchased its own parcel outright and operated independently, remained open. The rest of the building went completely dark and silent. In the days immediately after closure, the visitors who managed to get inside described a building suspended in time. Power was still running. Store signs still glowed in the empty corridors. The full trampoline park inside one wing was still completely assembled. Merchandise displays sat untouched in shuttered storefronts. It felt less like an abandoned building and more like a mall that had simply held its breath, waiting for an opening bell that was never coming. One security vehicle periodically circled the property. Multiple entry points, confirmed by later reports, had simply been left unlocked. Word spread across social media within days. This is the Los Angeles metro area, a region with a deeply embedded graffiti culture, a massive young population, and a digital ecosystem that can turn any location into a destination overnight. Now, when videos began circulating showing how effortlessly you could walk into a 1.2 million square foot building with essentially no security, the response was immediate. Westminster police logged over 400 calls to the property in the weeks following closure. In a single 72-hour period, officers responded to 57 service calls
hundreds of times in recent months and made
Beth McDade live in Westminster, where nearby residents say that empty mall is a real danger to the community. MB.
and arrested 30 individuals. Eyewitnesses reported up to 60 people inside simultaneously, with no law enforcement in sight. Taggers hit every surface: walls, floors, ceilings, columns, escalators, and storefronts, in what became one of the most extensively documented urban vandalism events in Southern California history. Shop windows throughout the main concourse were smashed inward. Dozens of fire extinguishers were discharged, coating corridors in white powder and filling sections of the building with a thick chemical haze visible in every photograph taken inside. Furniture was torn from stores and stacked in the walkways. Squatters stripped copper wiring from the walls and occupied empty storefronts. What made this scene genuinely unsettling was the contrast with what remained intact. The skylights were unbroken. The floors were dry. The walls showed no mold. Power was still on in large sections. Structurally, this was a perfectly sound building. It looked as though it had been abandoned for 15 years, but it had been closed for 3 weeks. And on the other side of one shared wall, Target was open for business. Shoppers at the checkout lines, completely unaware of what was happening inches away. CBS News covered it. The New York Post ran the photos. to NBC4 Los Angeles and KTLA broadcast from outside. Westminster Mall had become nationally known, not for what it once was, but for what it had become in a single month. The chaos forced the timeline forward. Shop-off Realty Investments moved decisively, formally completing its acquisition of the remaining 83-acre site in early 2026. A security fence was erected around the full perimeter in January. By February 2026, demolition crews were already inside the building, stripping carpet, gutting the anchor store interiors, dismantling what remained. Full demolition of the mall structure was announced for spring 2026. The replacement project, officially named Bolsa Pacific at Westminster, will deliver 2,250 residential units, including for-sale homes and affordable rentals, a 120-room hotel, the 220,000 square feet of retail and commercial space, and 15 acres of open parkland, with walking trails, an urban park, and outdoor promenades. Target will be rebuilt and retained as an integrated anchor within the new community. City entitlement approval is anticipated in 2026, with full construction beginning later that year. Where goldfish once swam, and where a pyramid skylight once flooded a grand center court with California sunlight, there will soon be homes, parks, and a hotel. The city moves on. Here is what Westminster Mall actually was, beneath the retail metrics and ownership changes and bankruptcy filings. It was a community living room, Saturday afternoon trips with the whole family, teenagers meeting after school, parents letting their kids ride the carousel while they sat on a bench and exhaled, couples walking the concourse on weekday evenings just to have somewhere comfortable to go. The forces that killed it were larger than any one decision. Online retail hollowed out foot traffic nationwide. Competing centers with stronger rosters pulled the audience away. An ownership chain stretched too thin across too many failing properties. A pandemic that severed whatever thread remained between American consumers and enclosed malls. None of that is new information, but the destruction that followed, the 3 weeks that turned Westminster into a national story, that is the part history will not forget. An institution that survived recessions, retail revolutions, and a global health crisis was left essentially unguarded and dismantled in less time than it takes most people to finish a television series. 51 years of community history. 3 weeks to erase it. The American Mall is not just dying. It is being documented in real time. And Westminster Mall may be the most complete case study we have ever seen. This has been the History Chronicle. If this story stayed with you, if it made you feel something about a building you may have never visited, share it with someone who needs to see it. Subscribe for more documented histories like this one. And leave a comment. What mall did you grow up in? What do you still remember about it? We read every single one. We will see you in the next chapter.